And I asked her for several weeks, would she please come and remove the remainder of her fence? She told me to go F myself.
7S. And you are Paula Bailey.
Yes.
And you're Sarah.
Yes.
Today was a date scheduled because there was a motion from Ms. Bailey regarding the magistrate's decision not to hear a post-adjudication motion regarding the execution of the judgment. So it's my understanding the magistrate entered a judgment. The judgment had an amount of money attached for performance of removal of the fence, and that the fence was in fact removed, satisfying the judgment. And this motion was filed after that fact. And Ms. Bailey, you filed this motion, and the magistrate said it's not appropriate for this post adjudication motion, and so you filed an appeal of that. Am I understanding that correctly?
No. Magistrate Milmore told me she was not going to hear the motion.
That's what I just said.
She did not want to hear from the plaintiff, but she heard from the defendant. This is why I filed the appeal.
Okay, well, it's not an appeal of the judgment, is my understanding. So why did you file after the judgment's been satisfied?
Due to the fact that the judgment was not satisfied because Sarah Feud did not remove her entire fence.
So you're
She
saying
removed-
there's some portion of the fence that remains up?
The bottom of her fence is still there. Okay, after several weeks went by, she,
Order here from the magistrate.
because Magistrate Milmore said she did not want to hear from the plaintiff, period. She wasn't going to hear the motion. She only wanted to hear from the defendant. The defendant told her that she removed the fence. She asked her the entire fence. She told her yes. I was excused. Magistrate Milmore excused me. I went down to appeal it. When I came back, the defendant was still in the courtroom talking with Magistrate Milmore. And I have a witness back here. The fence was not totally removed. 85 feet of her fence is still there. The posts are still there. She has rebar still on my property, 85 feet. You cannot put up a fence without the posts. The posts are concreted 5 feet into my ground, each one. Okay, with 100 pounds of concrete. You cannot put up a post. You cannot put up a fence without posts. I asked Sarah Feud for several weeks as her and her family and her husband traveled back and forth onto my backyard because they added gates to their newly installed fence that opens up onto my backyard. So they traveled back and forth onto my backyard through these gates. After several weeks of this, I put up a fence, but I could not build on top of her fence that's still encroaching on my backyard. So I had to build behind it. It's dangerous. I can't let my grandkids go back there. I can't let my dog go back there or my 85-year-old father because it's dangerous.
Why is it dangerous? Will you read that picture?
Yes.
I can't see.
Yes, yes.
My significant other tried for over 2 hours to remove one. He could not.
So the posts and the rebar, you're
With
saying,
concrete is still there.
don't talk over me. The posts and the rebar in this picture, you're saying is what? The remnants from when they tore out their fence?
Yes,
And that you haven't been able to remove it?
no. And I asked her for several weeks, would she please come and remove the remainder of her fence? She told me to go F myself. I asked her yesterday when she was outside lawnmower in her front yard. And she, it was racial slurs. So, and her and her husband was coming over onto my backyard with personal protection orders in place.
Yeah, this court doesn't have jurisdiction of personal protection orders. I'm more interested to hear about the fence removal because Judge or Magistrate Millmore's order says both the plaintiff and the defendant
No.
agree that the defendant remove the fence.
No,
She wouldn't have written that if that weren't said.
no, and I have a witness. She did not want to hear the motion. She did not want to hear from the plaintiff.
I understand that she didn't want to hear your motion in part because it was an inappropriate post-judgment motion regarding PPOs, but I am interested in this. Have you seen this, Ms. Figueroa?
Yes, I have. And that was when the fence was first taken down.
So this is not a current photograph.
It's when our fence was first taken down, before their fence was up and before the 60 days were up, before we could finish everything.
Ms. Figueroa, this will go easier if you just answer my question.
I did.
I said, is this not a current photograph? And
No,
you
that is
started
not a
talking about, okay.
program.
So is this the condition of the property today?
No,
Have you removed these items?
no, we were not allowed to,
What do you mean you were not allowed to?
because the day that we were taking the fence down, the plaintiff or her partner had called the police in as we were taking it down and almost to the end, and said we were violating our PPOs.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to stop what we were doing, and we had 60 days to complete everything, and since
And you didn't.
we weren't able to. And they put a fence up a week later, or 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I don't really care about her fence. I'm more
Yeah.
interested in,
We're not allowed
I
on
guess,
the property
to the
because,
extent, are you
anymore.
saying that her fence encapsulates this stuff? So even if you wanted to remove it, you would have to go inside her fence to get it out,
I would have to go into her property after the fence was up
to get this out.
to get it out.
But you did not comply with removing everything within the 60 days, is what you're saying.
We haven't had 60 days yet. The 60 days ain't even up yet before they put the fence up.
That's not truly the answer to my question now. So have 60 days gone by since the entry of the judgment?
No,
Well, it looks like the judgment entered on June 26th. So you have a few days left, is what you're saying. But you're unable to comply because the fence is in the way.
yes,
Well, then let me ask this. You put a fence around it, so they can't comply with the judgment to get this stuff out?
Your Honor,
Mm-hmm.
due to the fact that Sarah Figueroa
Mm-hmm.
and her husband
Mm-hmm.
both has personal protection orders in place,
Mm-hmm.
they should not have never came over with chainsaws, hammers over onto my property, period. They should and supposed to have sent someone other than themselves to come over on the property. The police was called at the time because they had got very belligerent towards me and my significant other. There is nothing that stopped them from removing their fence or removing the remainder of their fence, because for several weeks, I got pictures of them coming through their gates that open up onto my property that they installed after they PPOs, that opens up onto my backyard. I got pictures of them on my backyard. Okay.
I'm not interested
So
in that.
they could
I
have
want to know.
sent someone over
I want to know.
to remove.
No, you fenced your yard down. So they can't just go sending someone into your yard, right? You fenced it.
But the appropriate thing to do is to notify me, which they should have did when they
See,
cut the
what
fence
all of
down.
this sounds like is you're trying to control everything everyone else is doing, including you putting that fence up and then saying they need to notify you for someone to come remove this.
If I hadn't put the fence up,
Mhm.
after several weeks of them coming back and forth onto my property through these gates that they installed on a newly built fence, they coming on my backyard for several weeks. If I had not put a fence up, they would have continued.
Mhm.
But the fence sit outside of their encroaching fence.
Mhm.
It sits outside. There's nothing that will stop a landscaper from coming over there and removing the remainder of the fence. here's the gates. They going and coming as they please onto my backyard for several weeks
Mhm.
prior to me putting up a fence outside of their.
I don't care about that. All I care about is whether you have prevented them from complying with the judgment by fencing in the remainder of what they need to remove.
No. No,
Is
because they
this-
can come over, send someone over, because these people are violent. That's why they have personal protection orders. They can send a landscaper over and remove the remainder of what 85 feet of what they have in the ground.
So you're saying they need to get a landscaper to come ask you to let them in your fenced yard to remove the remaining 85 feet?
Yes, or
Okay,
if I'm not
ordering
there,
that. We're done. Thank you. Motion denied. You're all set.
You all set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you guys have a seat.
I haven't heard from Smith. She responded. Should I email her again?